We're going to make sure that we have a way to visually represent multiplication of fraction. And we focused on two methods of doing that in our class. So one method is looking at multiplication of fraction as a fraction of a fraction. So if I look at this example here, we have a picture of a 2/3 fraction. Okay, so I'm going to draw my 2/3 fraction. I'm going to shade in 2 out of 3 parts here. And I'm going to look at this as 2/3 of 1 or 2/3 times 1. So that what of means in mathematics in terms of fractions is we can say 2/3 of a whole would be same as 2/3 times 1 whole. So we can use this translation of the multiplication as of or vice versa. So if we take a look at a 3/4 fraction, we can do the same thing. We're going to shade 3/4 of a fraction here. So that represents 3/4 of a whole, or 3/4. And we want to know what 1/3 of that 3/4 fraction looks like. Or in other words, what is 1/3 times 1/4, or 3/4? So there's two ways we can look at this. We can look at this as 1/3 of 3 pieces would be one of these pieces. So that would mean that we're left with 1/4. Okay, so that's one way we can look at it. Another way we can look at this is, I'm just going to redo this picture here. Okay, another way we can look at 1/3 of 3/4 is we can take 1/3 of each of these slices. And that would mean that we have 3 1/12 pieces, because these slices, if we slice up the quarters into thirds, we have 12 pieces that make up our whole. So we can say that the answer would be 3 out of 12, which again will reduce to 1/4. So there's two ways we can kind of interpret that, but both ways we end up with the same solution. We end up with 1/4. So 1/3 of 3/4 then would be equal to 1/4. Okay, so we have 1/3 times 3/4 is equal to 1/4. And we can see from what we know of times on top and divide on bottom, as we cancel those out, we're going to get 1/4. So the basic idea then is that we can replace the word of with multiplication or vice versa, and we have a fraction of a fraction is one way we can show multiplication of fractions.